Well, welcome to the show.
This is our view from the bench.
Well, welcome to the show. I'm Brendan, flower trimmer for the Rose Bowl.
And I'm Corey, an eligible receiver for the Detroit Lions. And happy Tuesday, man. Welcome to 2024.
Happy Tuesday and Happy New Year to you, man. Happy New Year to everyone out there as well. How was your New Year?
Pretty basic. I had to work a Ducks game that started at 5. So by the time I got out of there and walked to my car, the Disneyland fireworks were going off at 9 p.m., so 12 Eastern. So that was kind of my New Year's Eve celebration in a sense, because by the time I got home, I was done. I just chilled. I think I heard all the fireworks going off around me because I'm in Huntington Beach at midnight. So I was like, oh, it's midnight. Like I wasn't paying attention to the clock at all by the time I got here, but survived and made it through. And we're into, as you said earlier when we were prepping, the Kobe year. So excited about it and
That's
ready
right.
to go. What about you, man?
Nice. Mine sucked. Well, to be honest with you, for what it was nice. It was nice. I got to spend time with my wife. We watched a couple of shows and some of the New Year's Eve shows and stuff like that. So just kind of hanging out. But ever since we literally as soon as we logged off on the last episode, I have been in bed for 4 or 5 days straight, just sick out of my freaking mind. It's arguably some of the sickest I've been. I mean, I don't want recency bias, but I would say ever, because normally when I'm sick, I'm functional. Just not like oh man, this kind of sucks. I was bedridden, honestly. So thank you to the wifey for taking care of me. I appreciate it. A little bit better now. That's why we're gonna try to take care of some stuff here today. A little bit shorter episode, but excited for it. Starting the new year off, like you said, the Kobe year with our pod, man. Dig it.
Best way to do it. And before we get started, just to make sure, if you're not already following us, don't forget to subscribe to the channel on YouTube and hit the notification bell so you can see when we get our new episodes up. Obviously, our schedule is trying to be every Tuesday, Monday, Thursday, but things come up and things happen. So make sure you hit the like button there so you can see what you can get.
Exactly. So, but thank you all for hanging out. We're gonna jump into football. That's what this main episode is going to be about. Again, I'm still under the weather, so I'm trying to work my way back into it. We're gonna take one topic at a time. We're gonna spread the love. We got obviously some college football that's happened over the past couple days, and NFL Week 17 has finished. We're gonna start with the college football playoff semifinals, though.
Ooh,
right here, baby. Michigan football, go freaking blue! Oh, dude, such a good game. Did you get to watch any of the Rose Bowl?
Yes, I did. Actually, did not have to work on New Year's Day, so I was able to watch these games.
Oh, perfect.
And enjoy them. Yeah, man, what a game! I mean, I know we talked about before how everyone was mad that Florida State wasn't in, but after we saw them get completely demolished on Saturday against Georgia, the committee got it right, man. These two games were great, including this Alabama-Michigan one to start the day off at the Rose Bowl. And it's weird. I know I never really thought about the Rose Bowl as always an afternoon game, even regardless if it's the title game or not, but they talked about how when you get to that late third, early fourth, you get that sunset in LA, and you get the Rose Bowl, and UCLA is there. It's kind of but when it's the Rose Bowl game itself, it is a full crowd. And for Michigan, Alabama, two of the best teams in the country, and not just this year, but the last 5 to 10 years, especially Saban over the last 20 basically. What a game for them to have, and for it to come down the way it did and go into overtime. And I mean, just you couldn't have scripted that game any better if you're writing it for movie.
No, I mean, even as a fan and someone who was rooting for Michigan, although it was a nail biter, it was interesting. My wife before the game, kind of asked me what would make it good. I said, honestly, a close game or a Michigan beatdown, because just like a fan. But I'm glad that it was a close game. And shout out to Jalen Milroe, man. I know that he wasn't perfect, but I actually really like the kid. I feel like he just doesn't quit. He doesn't take all the negative talk. Everyone says he can't do this and he can't do that, including his offensive coordinator, like we talked about previously, saying that you'll never be a quarterback here. Well, he just led you to the college football. Now, granted, lost in overtime, but great game for everyone all around. One of the funny things that I thought was that I saw later was this thing on Bleacher Report. Sorry. But there was a poll that said, what was one of the things that we learned from the Rose Bowl game? And one of the options was Alabama didn't deserve to be here. And that I don't quite understand how you could make that assumption. Now, the other option was Florida State definitely should have been. There's a couple things, right? But the fact that Alabama shouldn't be here, that doesn't quite make sense. I thought it was a great game, taking the number one team in the nation, undefeated Michigan Wolverines, to overtime and losing at the 4 yard line. I mean, I don't know how they don't deserve to be there. So I thought it was a great game overall.
Yeah, and not only that, I mean, Alabama led late in the game. It's not like Michigan was leading and then somehow kind of faltered in and then got the win in overtime. They were trailing late in the fourth,
Right.
had to come back to tie it late and then force the overtime in the first place. So, but I think part of it too is Crimson Tide have been in it a lot I don't know, forever. It seems like with Saban. So if you're one of those
True.
people in the country you don't like, even if you're not a Michigan fan, you just are over Alabama and them being there all the time. To see the hated go down in a sense is actually something that is a big crowd. And obviously a lot of people are going to watch because they want to see whether the dynasty continues through a new era with these other players, because it's been a while since they've won one in Alabama, or if Harbaugh, who has been obviously a topic of conversation throughout the season with his suspensions and missing half the games that they even played in. I mean, it's
Right.
a battle of who do you hate more or who does the country hate more, and ultimately Alabama goes down. And like you said, a great game to the end. Milrow and them. I mean, I know Florida State. I don't know if it's Florida State school, but somebody who likes Florida State posted about how their quarterback threw for more yards in their bowl game against Georgia. Yeah, but you're also lost 63-3. So I don't know how that has anything to do with
Georgia,
you.
it was eating chicken wings and live on Instagram at halftime, dude. Like, what are
Yeah,
you talking about? They stopped playing after they were up 60. Like,
exactly. So yeah,
yeah,
he threw for
I don't know.
100, and then even then it was what 23 more yards. It's not like he threw for 300 and he threw for 150. Like, get out of here and let it go. You guys didn't get there. You didn't deserve to be
Yeah,
there, and the committee got this right with these two matchups, including like I said, this top one to go into overtime and to be down to the wire like this is great. And I'm excited to see what Michigan can do in the next round.
agree. One of the comments, because I actually did say something on the Bleacher Report article. One of the comments, because I said I thought they took the top team to overtime. Great game all around. And somebody commented, "You're a casual, huh?" I was like, I don't understand how my take on saying it's a good game makes me a casual sports fan. Nor do I understand how me thinking Alabama deserved to be there makes me casual either. I asked, of course, they don't answer because that's
Yeah,
just people on the internet. They want to say something negative but not ever back it up. I asked like who should be in there instead, and if you go down the line, right, the undefeated Florida State, that didn't look very good, and
hmm
the only other people that you could say that really deserve to be there are Georgia, and that's what everybody in the comments say. Well, Georgia would have beat both, but Georgia didn't beat Alabama, so
yeah,
you can't say woulda, coulda, should. They didn't. All they had to do was beat Alabama in the SEC title game, and they're in. Not only in, they're one. They're number one seed. So I don't know. I'm tired of people giving as much as I don't root for Alabama. I do like dynasties. Glad this one's kind of taking a little bit break. I don't understand the hate on it. Let the kids play. It's a good game. A good
yeah,
game. Just enjoy it.
absolutely.
The other game though was also a good one.
Mm.
In fact, actually, the teams that I wanted, I don't know who you were rooting for either. Maybe you didn't really care, but the two teams that I wanted to come out of it were Michigan and Washington. Sugar Bowl, Texas taking on Washington over in NOLA. And what a freaking nail! I mean, both of them were nail biters, but this one was something else, dude. It's close, 37-31 Washington. I actually saw somebody real quick. Somebody placed a bet. Apparently, they had a dream the night before about the game, and that was the score. And they put 35 or 43 cents on that exact score, and they won like a couple $100.
Dang, I want to put at least a couple bucks then if that's the case. At that
I think
point,
that's all he
good
had in his
grief.
account. I think that's like all he had in his like his DraftKings account. Like, yeah, that or whatever. So
Oh my
that's just
gosh.
kind of funny. But it
Yeah,
was a
no,
great game. Did you catch that one too? I'm assuming, right?
absolutely. Another great one. A little different because not only did it come down to the wire, but I mean, if Texas scores that touchdown at the end, they don't just tie
So,
it and force overtime. They get that extra point and they win the game. So it
mhm.
was big. Washington from the get go, Penix Jr. just man, some of those
Oh,
throws they just like drop. I think they call it in the basket. They just like fall in the right spot, even though
he's
the guys are
so
covered.
good.
Um, it wouldn't have been even a close finish like this, like we talked about getting ready to come on here, if the running back for Washington get hurt on that play in the last minute and they had to stop the clock for the injury. Otherwise, that clock would have ran out. Texas never would have had a chance to even come down the field and have an opportunity. That being said, I don't know what those 4 plays they called in that last, couple plays there at the end of the game, especially the one with the side pitch on the like, you don't have a timeout. Why are you throwing it to a running back behind the line of scrimmage? Just get out of the pocket and throw it away and give yourself another opportunity. And they're even lucky they got the 4th down with 1 second left because that was super close in the moment. I honestly, when it said final on the screen, I didn't think it was over, but I was waiting for all the confetti to start popping because sometimes those people don't pay attention and start popping that stuff off early. So thankfully they didn't do that and they were able to get one last shot. But yeah, Washington came to play. I know their defense is not what they're known for, but I mean they are in the last 2 years since they brought in DeBoer over there to coach. They are 14-2 in 1-score games, which obviously 8-0 this season since they haven't lost a game. So they're used to playing in
Nice.
close games and winning when and finding ways to win when you have to. So this one was just happened to be their defense having to find a way to win at the end.
Yeah, I mean, luckily, the same guy who had the game-winning play is the same guy who gave up the game-closing touchdown, which was an excellent catch. I forgot the number 5 for Texas. I forgot his name, but he made that jump, and it seemed early, but he just like hung in the air and brought down that touchdown. So great. The only thing that I'm concerned about, that defense that you talked about, it looked good enough. The line looked to give Ewers trouble. Got sacked and was hurried, but they had gaps, man. And as they were talking about on the broadcast, ranked 119th in the nation in pass defense. My question is how that translates to next week against JJ
Yeah.
McCarthy. I'm not saying he's Peyton Manning, but Jim Harbaugh says he's the greatest Michigan quarterback to ever play, and Tom Brady agreed with him. So um, we'll
Harbaugh
see
played at
what he'll be
Michigan
able to
too, so I
do.
guess he would know a little bit about that, right?
Exactly, calling him better than himself as well. Little nice kid nod to the kids. So JJ did play lights out too. But again, let's go back to Texas and Washington. Um, I don't know. I'm a little bit nervous. Again, these are the two teams that I wanted. The Pac-12 to have the last opportunity to actually have a title, and they're here, and then them to be playing Michigan. So this is the exact setup. I'm happy either way. We'll probably be rooting for Michigan a little bit, but will not be disappointed in the slightest if Washington's able to take it as well. So
Yeah.
should be really good next week.
Oh, it should be great. And obviously, just hoping for the same thing we got in these first two semifinal games. You just hope for a close
Yes,
game,
close.
regardless of who wins. And I just thought about it too as we were talking about it. It's a W versus an M. So it's like the same letter upside down against each other in this title game, which is going to take place next Monday on the 8th in Houston. They're going to play at NRG Stadium where the Houston Texans play. It'll be on ESPN. And right out the gate, Michigan is a 4.5-point favorite, which I can't really argue with that at all. You usually get a field goal for being home. It's a neutral site. So get that. Over under a 54.5, which based on the games, I could see that. But I'm with you as far as Washington's defense going against. I mean, they did slow down Alabama, but Alabama's offense is not nearly what Michigan has been this season. And Michigan being
No.
in the Big Ten, that's a big, huge offensive line. So if Washington's defensive line cannot get any kind of rushing onto McCarthy and make his job harder, I feel like Michigan's going to have an easy day on the offensive side. That being said, Penix Jr., I mean, he was a Heisman candidate for a reason. He's been playing great
Second.
all year. And just like I said, some of those balls just dropping into people's hands. And somebody said earlier today that they kind of, the way he plays and the way the swagger of the team around him kind of reminds them of Burrow when he was in LSU that year, because they didn't expect to be a good team and win that title. But they came out of nowhere and just had that right vibe and right thing. And Penix has been there, I think he's a fifth-year senior, so they've been there a while. They've kind of built the system with
And that's
him.
after a couple years at Temple or something, right?
Yeah, he transferred. He's had a couple knee injuries. So, I mean, this is like the biggest
He's like
story for him.
36 years old, isn't he? No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, man, with COVID too, there's a lot of extra years that
True.
these guys get eligible. So take advantage of it while you can, especially with the NIL money now involved. But yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. And then the coaching styles are completely different too. I mean, we're talking about Jim Harbaugh. We know his history at Stanford, the 49ers, and what he's done. But Kalen DeBoer is a lot more, less known. He won a lot when he was coaching at, I think it
But
was
he
South.
wins.
Yeah, a lot. He was coaching Sioux Falls back in the day, and now that's a lower level, obviously, compared to the Division I that he's in now. But I
Still
mean,
winning.
he's won everywhere. I mean, his overall coaching record in general is 104-11, so pretty good.
That's nuts. Yeah.
Like I said, they're 8-0.
Those 5 years, I think he was at Sioux Falls for 5 years, went to
Mhm.
the championship game 4 times and won 3 of them.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
again, knows how to run a program and get guys to buy into the system. He's a former wide receiver himself when he played at Sioux Falls as well back in the 90s. So
I wonder if that's why he has so many good freaking receivers on that team. Dude, nobody dropped the ball that game. It was insane. Not nobody, obviously, there's some
yeah,
drops, but
yeah,
dude,
you're right. When you're a guy who comes up doing that, and you're a wide receiver coach at some point in your career as well, like what talent and what wide receivers are good or not. So obviously he's done a good job of recruiting those guys, getting them in there with Penix Jr., and they have just figured some things out. Like I said, 14-2 in one-score games the last 2 years, including 8-0 this year. So they find ways to win, not necessarily always offensively. They had that ugly game against ASU, I think, earlier this season. It was like both teams scored under 20 points. But again, found a way to win, and sometimes it's ugly, and that's what you need. You just need sometimes it to be ugly and lucky, as they say.
And Michigan knows how to do that too. Obviously, Big Ten competition, beating Ohio State, obviously taking on Alabama, regardless of what you might think about Jalen Milroe or their offensive line. I think they were saying before the game, the offensive line is bigger than the average NFL offensive line,
Dang.
like in size. So those Michigan, defenders got 5 sacks in the first half Who knows what they might be able to do? And Jalen Milroe can scramble a little bit now. He didn't do a very good job. Michael Penix can, but he's
Yeah.
not a run first kind of guy. But he knows where every receiver is going to be. He knows his check down. He knows exactly when to turn when it's the right time. Watching him carve up Texas was crazy. The only thing that I was concerned about is how Texas was able to kind of stop them almost the entire fourth quarter. So that was kind of scary. The other thing to look out for is whether or not that running back who already had an injured foot, who's the one that you were talking about that had to stop the clock, whether or not he's going to be able to go. That's their starting back, and that's another weapon that could be lost. So we'll have to see how that pans out, and
I
then
believe
hopefully we have our Thursday episode. We can kind of talk
I'll
about it
say I
more.
believe I heard earlier today actually their offensive coordinator already came out and said he might be playing. So it looks like unless something completely changes in the next week that he should be out there on the field. And like you said, this is
But in what capacity? You know what I mean?
also a good
He
point.
was carried off the field, and the face that he had was not good. So
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll
absolutely.
see.
But, this is the first time that Washington has been in the title game since it's gone to the college football playoff. Well, really, both schools are having an opportunity to get an
Yeah, both.
actual
Yeah.
national title where it's only you and not the voting of the like the AP polls, all that stuff like it used to be.
hmm
Like Michigan's going for their 12th national title. The last time they won in 97, 98. But again, it was shared with Nebraska based on the AP votes and polls. Washington going for their third. Last time they won, it was in 91, 92. But again, shared it with Miami because it's not the way it is situated these days. So it'll be interesting to see which one actually gets their first real one. I think I even heard Charles Woodson on Rich Eisen this morning talking about it. If Michigan goes in and wins this game, he will consider them the best Michigan football team in history of the school because again, winning it for real and not just a share or anything like that makes it completely different and having to go through the gauntlet of the teams that they've had to beat to get here. And that's a big thing
I can
coming
see
from
that.
Woodson.
Yeah, very true. Very true. I'm kind of surprised though at this spread, or concerned, I guess. The spread for the Michigan game was 1.5, and the spread for the other one was 3.5. So this is already bigger than both of them. And we're hoping for a close game. Let's hope it kind of stays that way. I really don't know who. I mean, I know who I'm kind of rooting for, but I don't really know who I'm taking. Let's save maybe our picks for later in the week. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we got a couple days before they even announce probably more injury reports and other things are going to come up. So yeah, let's definitely wait and see if we get some more information, and we'll do our preview before the game next Monday.
I'm excited for it though, man. Like I said, dude, this is just the exact matchup that I was looking for. Washington, Michigan. That way there's no I just horns down 100%. Did you see the freaking guy in the end zone at the
Trying to
end of the
fight
game?
players or something, right?
Bro, get out of here, dude.
How old are
How
you?
old are you, man? Dude, you have a 12-year-old. These guys like are only, double that guy's age, if not less. These guys are in their early 20s. Like, get out of here, man. Chill. And you're not that important, dude. And your team lost. So go home.
A little
Just
bit
get
of
back on your
ignorance.
damn flight and go home.
Go out to New Orleans, Bourbon Street, and have some fun instead of picking fights with college kids and football teams.
Exactly. The ones that just beat you,
Yeah,
by the way. Yeah, that was something else. But great game all around. Both great games all around. So super excited. It took a long time. The freaking bowl season is just a slew of stuff. And I'm
yeah.
finally
Well,
glad we've got to the big games. You know
and
what I'm
just
saying?
wait. Next year we have 12 teams in the playoff. It's going to feel like
Well,
even
that's gonna be
longer because
good.
there's going to be multiple bowl games related and having to like force playoffs. And there might even be more upsets once you add more teams into it. So this might be the last time we get the two best teams actually in the final.
No, side note to that too, real quick. I thought it was interesting. A lot of speaking of that, like that bowl season, there's a lot of controversy, I guess you can say, along the transfer portal, recruiting time, preparing for the bowl all at the same time. A lot of coaches are like, dude, what the hell is going on? I have to prepare my team for a bowl game while simultaneously flying to recruit people, while simultaneously trying to get transfer. Like, I understand NIL needs to be there, transfer portal needs to be there. You think we can maybe make some adjustments on timing? Like this
Yeah,
is
you
getting a
would
little
think.
out of hand.
Yeah, because not only that, if you think about it too, nowadays as coaches, not only are you recruiting players to come to your school through the portal or guys that are in college or high school coming out, you also kind of have to recruit the guys to stay there because if they don't like the system and what's going on, they could be in the transfer portal and be leaving. So that's a lot of things to juggle in the middle of the bowl season and trying to get ready, especially if you're one of these four teams trying to get ready for the big game. So yeah, they should definitely think about moving that stuff into January. Like get through the
Yeah.
first of the year. At least once you're down
What's
to
the
two
problem
teams,
with January and February doing it?
yeah, I mean, I get it. Once you're down to the last two teams, then okay, everybody else
Fine.
can do what they need to do. There's only two teams. You can hire a staff on the side to kind of take care of some other things
Yeah.
while you're focused on the national title game. But
Yeah.
yeah, it seems like just too many balls up in the air at one time. Need to calm down.
Agree. I thought it was a little much. So I thought that was kind of interesting that some of the coaches were like, "No, we understand this, but just the timing is ridiculous." And I don't blame them. I agree. I think it's kind of crazy.
Speaking of crazy, NFL, man, that was a great week 17 leading up to a great week 18 of a bunch of things going on. But the biggest one, they start us off Saturday night with this Lions Cowboys game, and
Hmm.
just what in the hell happened out there?
Um, Again, I'm not an NFL referee. I'm not a professional, but I call bullshit. Almost any replay that I've seen shows multiple linemen going up to him, specifically 68, and I see the ref not paying attention to
Hmm.
who is claiming to be eligible. Not that they did not claim to be eligible. So I think it's kind of lame. I do. I'm kind of curious to see Micah's take on it. Was maybe they weren't playing for anything. I saw his little piece. He has his own like little show on
Yeah,
Bleacher Report. I saw his little take on it. Was what was crazy to me is after I got called for offsides, I'm surprised they still wanted to go for two and not just kick it for the tie. But his thought was, they've already locked up the division. They just want to come in and win. You know what I mean? Um, I kind of agree with him though. After all the momentum was lost, after
yeah,
this and then the penalty and then another penalty, like just kick the field goal and let's see what we could do in overtime. Because that throw by Jared Goff was so short. It wasn't. I don't know. Jared Goff's way better than that. That was. I don't know. I'm not saying he's elite, but I'm just saying he's better than that throw.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
every all the Cowboys fans out there are saying, "Well, you had two extra tries." That's not the point. The point was they converted it the right one, and y'all got lucky. So
Hmm. And
it
I'm
is what
with
it
you.
is.
I completely agree. Going for it initially on the first play when you got it, I totally get it. Because if you're the Lions and you're Dan Campbell, one, if you lose this game, worst case scenario, you're going to be the 3 seed no matter what. Like the
Yeah.
4 seed is
Hmm.
the NFC South is so terrible, they're not going to catch you. So by
Right.
going for it, and if you were to get it and win this game, you kind of put yourself in the driver's seat to be the number 2 seed because once you've
Right.
beaten the Cowboys, if the Cowboys are to win the division the next week and knock the Eagles to a wild card, then Detroit's in the 2 seed. So I get it, but like you said, once you lose that momentum of it not happening and not working,
Just
even the
take the
second
point.
time getting called for offside, just take the extra point, and then at that point, if you're the Lions, you have all the momentum anyway in that fourth quarter. The Cowboys did not play very well at the end of that game, so you already have the
Exactly.
momentum on your side. Take the extra point, force overtime. Maybe you get the ball first and you go down and get a touchdown, and you get out of there anyway with the win. And it kind of,
Right. That.
I don't know if it has anything to do with it, but I'm thinking also the halftime show with Jimmy Johnson getting up. That obviously the halftime takes probably a little bit longer than normal. Maybe that had something to do with kind of
True.
slowing the Cowboys down and kind of getting them off their game. But, it's kinda like ring night. Sometimes you just kinda get a little bit distracted. Maybe it kinda takes a little bit away from the game. So, I'm with you. If I'm the Lions, I would've gone for it initially, and I got it, but once you don't get it the first time and even the second time, I feel like just take the point and move on to overtime and see what happens.
See what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, it was a great little ceremony for him too.
Oh, yeah.
I liked how they had all the players out there that are already in the Ring of Honor. Great to see some of the names that I didn't watch. Great to see some of the names I've heard of. Great to see some of the names I did watch. Like even Demarcus Ware and stuff like that. So it's just really cool to see everybody out there. Jimmy with his speech and of course his how about them Cowboys at the end. It
Ah,
was really cool to see. Not a
it
huge
was
Cowboys fan, but it
It
was
was
cool.
awesome. I'm not a Cowboys fan either, but man, it was awesome. And then I didn't realize until he went out there at the top, he's 80 years old. I was like, dang, he's 80.
He looked good.
He looks good. He seems like he's in good spirit. I mean, he's walking and moving very well for his age. I mean, he just looks like he's 65, 70. If I had to guess. Like he just
Yeah,
looks in
that's what I
great
was
shape.
thinking, like
And I'm
60s.
with you. As
Hmm.
I actually had stopped by my grandma's house, so I was watching the game with her and the halftime stuff. And when he was out there, I was like, okay, where's the Cowboys comment? Like, it's gonna come at some point. So once he said, I only got one thing left to say, I was like, how about them Cowboys? Let's do it. Here we go. And then Irvin just exploded. You could tell they were just excited to have it. I'm glad
Yeah.
Troy Aikman, even though he was calling the game up in the booth, was able to come down and be a part of the ceremony as well, and then get back
Yeah,
up in the booth for
exactly.
the second half.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was a great ceremony. And honestly, a really good game overall. That was just really hampered by this end of the game bullshit that everyone is just going crazy over for obvious reasons. Because not only does it have game implications, but extreme playoff implications. Now the Cowboys are the 2 seed.
Yep. As long as they win next week or against Washington, they locked up the 2 seed. They get the bye. They get the not bye. They get 2 home games in the playoffs at least, which they're undefeated at home this year, so that's a big thing for them.
Yep.
But yeah, and you talked about how like the ref screwed up. Now the NFL came out today and like sent a thing to all the teams when you're checking an eligible receiver to make sure. So now it's like, oh, so you guys screwed up, and now you're telling us how to do it in the future. Nah, you guys messed up, and those guys who are on that refing thing, I know they're not going to be in the playoffs, but they are working a game that's important this week coming up, which seems kind of an I don't know, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. At that point, if you're going to make them work this week and they have to, and you got to pay them, like make them play a game or ref a game that doesn't have any implications of any kind. and that way you don't have to worry about it. But it is what
Yeah.
it is.
Go ref the Broncos freaking Raiders game or something, not the Steelers Ravens game. Now, there's not really any implications for the Ravens, obviously, but for the
Yeah,
Steelers there are. So,
absolutely.
yeah, it was crazy. I just don't understand. I mean, I do. I'm not ever looking to take away anybody's money, but I just don't understand the lack of like accountability that the referees have. Like
Hmm.
they can change the game so much with incorrect calls, and nothing ever happens. Besides a oops or
Yeah.
it's just stupid.
That's
One
why I
thing I was
hate
actually
those
reading to
last 2 minute reports in the NBA too. Like, cool, you told me you got it wrong, but that didn't change the fact that we still lost because of it. Like, you don't go back and change the results of the game because of this 2 minute report. You're just telling us, like, hey, we noticed we messed up, but we're sorry. Cool. What does that do?
yeah, thanks. Okay, well, so, I mean, depending on who it is, like depending on the players, depending on what call that you messed up on, that could impact players like money,
Yeah.
right? If you call back a touchdown that they need, or you bring back yards that they had, right? I mean, there's all sorts of incentives and stuff
Hmm.
that are built in, even wins and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, just kind of sucks. Just kind of sucks that they have all that and no real accountability to take for it. Again, I don't really like calling for people's jobs, but I saw this reel that talked about. I don't know how accurate these numbers are, but the head referee for that crew and another head referee, they have when lined up statistically, it's like a 75 to 80% chance that whatever game they are calling, the odds for most of those things, whether it be money line, over unders, and stuff like that, go the house, go Vegas's way. So if the public is betting more of the over, then 80% of the time, if they're refing, it's hitting under. This kind of just leads to more of the, not scripted per se, but the NFL is helped along by the referees and how much betting really has to do with everything here. So again,
Yeah.
conspiracy all you want, but kind of weird when you see those kind of numbers.
Absolutely. Those are like, it's like Tim Donaghy numbers back in the day when he was doing NBA stuff.
Yeah, and that turned out to be true. So
Yeah.
who knows? Who knows? More implications, though, especially in the NFC East, which is really the only reason why the Cowboys have the lead. What the hell were the Eagles doing losing to the Cardinals in Philly
Ugh.
on Sunday, bro?
I
That is atrocious,
I
man.
kept
I mean,
checking that
as you could
score.
see, where's my sign? Where is it? I'm a Cardinals fan right here, right? But I did not see this happening. I don't understand. I don't understand how this. When I first saw the score, it was like 21-6. I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
somehow we came back, and I was just like, I mean, I guess I'm pulling for a high draft pick, but still, cool to see that we can compete, at a high level with these people. But I don't know. The Eagles look terrible right now, dude.
Well,
Terrible. After such
not
a
just
hot start, terrible.
not just right now. I mean, you mentioned the hot start. They were 10-1, and then even when they were still winning those couple games, we talked about it before they played. Oh man, I can't remember who it was, but they had won 4 games in a row, even when they had trailed at halftime in those 4 games. So they had been
Yeah,
struggling to get the wins as it is. And even when they were 10-1, people were like, it's probably the most miserable 10-1 team in the league based on the locker room vibe. And we talked about when they got Kevin Byard from the Titans in the back end at safety, like, hey, that'll kind of
didn't
help
help.
their coverage on the backside because they're one of the worst, if not the worst team. Has not helped at all. I don't. They went to Patricia calling defenses for the last couple games, and that hasn't worked out. Like, it's just a mess over there, and they're so lost. And honestly, them and the Chiefs both kind of have a similar thing where they're 10 or 11 wins and they're in the playoffs, but they have struggled to get those 10 or 11 wins. And I mean, if Philly ends up having to go on the road in the first round of the playoffs because they're not going to win the division, they better hope they don't have to go to Dallas, especially because Dallas is going to be ready for them on the third matchup and at home. So yeah, I don't know, man. Eagles look lost and confused, but they're gonna, be in the playoffs. But it's just a matter of
Yeah.
who they play and if they have to go on the road or if they get to host the first round. So it'll be interesting to
Well,
see
the
what
only
they do.
way that they freaking host is if the Cowboys lose in Washington.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
I mean, anything's possible in division matchups. I
Well,
just don't see it happening.
yeah,
Yeah, I
we
mean,
know anything's
so
possible. The Cardinals won in Philly.
true. Shit, that's what we're just talking about. But
And to be
I
honest
just,
with
I
you
don't know.
too, as a Titans fan, go Cardinals because if you guys get your fifth win next week, I don't know
No,
who has the tiebreaker, but we have 5 wins. I'm trying to drop that draft pick, man.
no, we play the Seahawks, and the Seahawks are fighting
Oh
for
yeah,
playoff contention. So I'm
that's right.
hoping that we take the L. We'll go 4-13. But yeah, I mean, like you said, dude, anything's freaking possible. And I know that the Cardinal, all the players, they're not fighting for draft picks. They don't
No,
care
they
about the
don't
draft
care.
picks, obviously. So they're going to be fighting for the win. which is good. I'd rather have people. I'd rather have players on my team that do that. It's just crazy that Mighty Mouse went over to freaking Philly and did work like that. He tore it. He can't even see over his own offensive line. He's still lit up their secondary. It's crazy.
And
It's
I'm sure you
crazy.
saw what jersey he showed up in when he got there for the pregame, right?
Yes, he did. Yes, he
Sidney
did. That
Crosby.
was mm-hmm.
Who I
Just
think I just
kind of rubbing
saw.
it in their own damn face.
I think I just saw Crosby got 12th all time in points tonight. I think I don't know if it was a goal or an assist, but he is 12th all time. I think in career points now.
Dude's insane. Dude's insane. And that's pretty much what Kyler did. Carve them up. Carve them up. It was
Speaking of
something else.
carving up, I thought the
Ouch,
Dolphins
bro.
Ravens game was gonna be fun and awesome. Ravens had some
Me
sushi like
too.
by halftime. It was over. Like it was bad.
When I turned the game on, it was 10-7 Dolphins. I was like, oh, wow, they're okay. They're actually keeping, and that was it.
Yeah, pretty much it. Like they completely fell apart. I mean, Lamar had 5 touchdowns. He only threw 20. I mean, he went 18 of 21, but he had 5 touchdown passes. So basically a third of his passes were ended up in the end zone. Like I mean, he's as far as I'm concerned, after the way he took apart San Francisco the week before, he does this against the Dolphins. And we talked about the Dolphin defense since week 8 when Ramsey came back. They've been like top 5 in a lot of categories. Well, they didn't look like it this weekend against Baltimore, and the Dolphins better hope they don't have to come back to Baltimore at some point in the playoffs because they're fighting for their division title at this point as well. And they have to go back to Baltimore at some point. It is not going to be good at all.
No, I'm just kind of surprised that I'm assuming you were going to talk about how Lamar is like basically the MVP. I'm assuming, right? That's what you're saying. Like he kind of put himself above and beyond. The hard part for me is like agree for the team. He is the MVP. But when I start looking at it, I think we can maybe this might be one year where we could try to pull off a non QB MVP. Because when I started thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, dude, Lamar Jackson's the beast. He beat the freaking Niners in
San Francisco,
San Francisco, and Brock Purdy was up there. He just beat the shit out of the Dolphins, and Tua has been up there as well. There's nobody really else besides them, and maybe like a Christian McCaffrey. When I go to here, he has 3,600 passing yards. He's literally almost 1,000 passing yards behind the leader.
See, like
That's a lot,
10
man.
to 14th ranked, I think, in the league, right? It's like way down there.
Yeah,
But
yeah. He only
the
has
thing
an
is
average
that's
of 8 yards per attempt, man.
yeah,
I
but that's
mean,
not his
he's
game. If he's only throwing 21 passes, he also runs a lot. He does more than it's kind of like they say Christian McCaffrey is the Swiss Army knife as far as a running back. Lamar's kind of the same way as a quarterback. Like he doesn't do the typical way of always having to throw the ball, but he does affect the game. I mean, there was even that one highlight I saw it today where he lined up in shotgun as if he was left-handed. Did you see that?
oh yeah.
And he
Yeah, well,
completely
he kind of after he caught it, he kind of came back and then turned. That was the Zay Flowers touchdown. I literally, oh my gosh, bro, I was watching that play. I see Zay motion from the left side all the way across. I was like, nobody followed him. I was like, nobody's gonna. I mean, maybe they're playing zone, but even when he got to the other side, no DBs like moved over a little bit or anything. I was like, nobody's gonna cover that guy. And sure enough, next play, woo, 75 yards touchdown.
I just
Okay,
thought it was
I guess.
weird that Lamar, like you said, once he got the ball, he kind of turned as if he was left-handed, and you could see all the linebackers and safeties kind of go, "Oh, he's going that way." But then all he had to do is literally just that way. And Zay, like you said, once he got in motion, nobody followed him. He was wide open down the sideline.
It's I don't know. It's something else. That's for dang sure. I just it was weird. It was weird to see them beat them by so much. I was hoping that it was gonna be a closer game. But to me, the biggest takeaway from this entire thing, because I knew they were gonna lose. In my opinion, I knew Baltimore was gonna win the game. I didn't expect it to be this much, but the biggest thing is losing Bradley Chubb.
Yeah,
Um
big time.
he is so good and so necessary for this Dolphins team, that especially that defensive front. That's going to be a big loss, and I'm curious to see how they do at home against Buffalo. They don't need it to make the playoffs, but they sure do need it to not be a 6 seed. So
Yeah,
it's going to be tough. I'm rooting for them. Obviously, not really a Bills fan at all. So go Dolphins. But it's going to be weird to see what it's like. That offense is going to have to do work. That's for sure.
yeah.
And he doesn't win.
The other
Tua
thing too
doesn't. Tua's 1-5.
yeah, the other thing too is Mozart come back because he didn't play this week for Miami as well. So does he
That might
come
be
back
helpful.
and kind of help them a little bit, or does
I
is it
think
to the
Waddle's
point?
out too, right?
Yeah, Waddle's out as well. So it's a wonder if those guys come back or they just hang on to them for the playoffs and kind of hope for the best. But like you said, they're in, but it's just a matter of are you the 2 seed or are you the 6th seed? That's a big difference of having to be at
Big
home for
difference.
multiple rounds or having to go on the road from the get go and not having a home game. Not that the weather at this point in January is going to be hot in Miami, but it would definitely be warmer than having to go to
It's not snowing.
Baltimore or some other places where you're not used to that kind of weather for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Another team that was able to secure the division finally. You referenced them earlier, the Chiefs. You know what? Real quick before we go, you did you call like Baltimore ahead of the season and just know that they were going to have some like lights out year or something? Because that was a pretty good prediction. Not only did you pick Lamar for MVP, you picked them to kind of make the Super Bowl. Now, granted, they're not in the Super Bowl yet,
No,
but
but
they look really good.
yeah, I think part of it was the fact that the whole contract situation that Lamar had to go through and get to re-signing. I feel like he was kind of on a mission to prove that he was worth that money since last year when he wasn't healthy, they weren't able to get very far without him. So I had a feeling that they were going to be ready from the get-go. Now, they've dealt with a lot of injuries and somehow still been able to figure it out. But yeah, I don't know. I just had one of those feelings that they're going to be the king of the AFC and take down the Chiefs. But like you said, the Chiefs, man, I mean, they clinched the AFC West, but again, it's like the Eagles, man. They
It's
look
about all they're going to clinch, man.
so rough. It's so hard to watch them play football. They just look like everything's such a struggle. But it's also one of those things too that you've had the last 5-6 years of these guys doing their thing, and people are starting to figure out. And maybe Bieniemy was a lot more important than we realized as far as the offensive side of the
Maybe.
ball, because their
Sheesh.
defense is great, or at least
Good.
one of the better ones in the league. So they're always
Hmm.
in the games. But it just seems like Mahomes has kind of lost that magic at the end where he needs to make that play, but that might also be because guys aren't catching the ball even when he makes the throws to him or lining up off sides on accident, like we saw that one week when he got pissed off at Tony for being toe over the line. So it's just been a weird
Yeah.
year, and I don't know if the Taylor Swift has anything to do with it. I know that's another
100%.
distraction, and not necessarily something that you want to worry about as an athlete or have to answer questions about. And they'll tell you, well, you get asked questions about the coaching situation or this and that. Yeah, but that's a part of the game itself. It's within the locker
Right.
room. It's within the team. That is just
Hmm.
another thing outside that has nothing to do with the game itself and is just another distraction. And I know they talk about how Kelsey plays well when she's in attendance and when she's
No,
not,
no,
he
we don't.
plays well, but I don't think it even matters anymore because they just now
No,
that
he
you have
doesn't.
no receivers that you can trust as far as Mahomes goes, you're only going to trust Kelsey, which means the other teams are going to double him and make and force you to go to the other guys that you basically have no trust in. So it's just kind of a recipe for disaster.
I think the Chiefs are just lucky that the AFC South is not good
Very true. They
this
could be
year.
a 4
Not
seed
as
in
good.
that sense.
Let me put
Yeah.
it that way. Yeah, otherwise they'd be the 4 seed because they're going to be lucky enough to be the 3 seed, but it's not like they earned it. You know what I mean? Normally they're used to being the 1 seed, and everything always runs through them.
Yeah.
So if they even make it out of the first round, they're most likely, unless an upset happens as well on the other side, they're most likely going on the road in the second. But kind of going back real quick to the how good is Joe Burrow? Sorry, I saw Cincinnati. Is Travis Kelsey doing? Let's see. Last game, 3 receptions, 16 yards. That sounds like Travis Kelsey. 5 for 44, 5 for 28. Wow. 3 for 14. That was
That's
a
what I'm
good game.
telling you, man. They're
That was a good one
doubling
there.
him and forcing Pat find other guys to beat him, and there's nobody else there. And you look at it now, like the way the bracket is set up.
It's
If it
5
stays,
touchdowns on the season, dude.
if it stays the way it is, like Kansas City's going to have to play Buffalo right now. That's not going to be easy. And even if Buffalo were to jump up and get the division, you're talking about playing Miami, who has not played great, obviously, as we saw against Baltimore. But before that, they had beat the Cowboys and they had played pretty well in defense. So I
Hmm.
don't know. It's just going to be very. Oh man, if Buffalo somehow comes back to Kansas City again, Kansas City better be ready for that matchup.
Yeah, they just got beat down, so they better, like you said, be ready for that matchup. Again, they squeaked this one out. They were down, I think, most of the game. They
Yeah,
finally, Patrick Mahomes finally came back and beat Jake Browning. So that's good. The only thing that I didn't agree with was Jamar Chase lighting a fire before the game even started, like we had talked about in the previous episode.
yeah,
I
made
don't
no
understand why
sense.
he was talking shit before you even get there.
Well,
And
not
he
only
took home the
that,
L.
he
So
was saying they didn't have like a Jalen Ramsey. No, they have Snead. He's just as good, if not better,
yeah,
than Jalen
yeah,
Ramsey
he's
has been
good.
this season. So I don't know where that comes from. And you don't have Burrow behind there throwing the ball to you at this point. So why even stir that pot? You already made the whole Burrow head thing, and then last year you went in there and got beat because of it. Why push it this year when you don't have Burrow, throwing the ball to you? It just made no sense.
Yeah. Well, who are they going to play the first round? Oh, that's right, they're out.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just saying, dude. That was I don't know. I think it's kind of lame. I like Jamar Chase a lot, but I
Oh
don't.
yeah,
It just seems so out of the blue to like randomly just call out the defense that you're about to play. Again, I like the confidence and not talking shit afterwards or something, right?
yeah.
But geez, man, like
But also read the
they're
room
not a
and
bad team,
know where you are as a team. Like, don't just because you're a great player doesn't mean that the team
right?
is good around you because of all the injuries you've had and don't have your starting quarterback that led you to a Super Bowl 2 years ago. So yeah, it just
Exactly,
doesn't make a lot of sense.
exactly.
I think you got to be aware of the surroundings and the situation before you start talking shit.
Yeah, and I don't understand. Again, maybe I'm the type of guy, and I like talking shit, but I'm the type of person who would rather respect an opponent, um, and do the field, do the talking. You
Yep,
know what I mean? Like a Patrick Mahomes kind of thing. You know, we're looking for. Honestly, mostly everybody in the league is like that. It seems like just the diva wide receivers, huh? Yeah, I was got something to say.
that's usually how it works.
Well, someone who doesn't really have much to say, but he's got a lot to throw.
Ugh.
You see that thing with David Tepper?
Dude, first of all, if you're an owner and you're sitting in a
Okay, real quick.
suite, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, let's show it real quick, and then we can talk about it. All
All
right,
right, good idea.
let's roll the clip. I don't know. Apparently, money can't buy you class, huh?
Dude, I just don't understand though. If you're an owner sitting in a suite and there's fans in front of your suite talking crap and your team is not even good anyway, you've been bad all year. You already fired your coach who you hired last year. It's like the fifth coach he's had run the team since he's bought the team. I don't understand. And if you're gonna let a fan get under your skin that much that you can't control yourself and you act like a child and throw a drink at them, like what are you even doing owning a team at that point? Like either it's one of those owners too, like he thinks he knows everything, so he hires all these people, but then he micromanages things and makes things worse. Like hire the people that you trust, let them do their job, and get the hell out of the way. Like that's how
Hmm.
good organizations are run. You don't have the coaches or I should say the owners in every single little micromanaging every single decision. Like let them coach. And I mean, we've talked about it throughout the year too. There's been reports that he wanted to draft Bryce Young, but Reich, when he was coaching the team, wanted to draft C.J. Stroud. Well, obviously that kind of panned out the way that Reich wanted it to go, and now here he is not even coaching the team anymore. And not only that, when he fired the guy and did the press conference, he couldn't pronounce his last name correctly. Instead of calling him Reich, he called him Reich. Like how detached are you from your organization if you can't even pronounce the name of your coach who you hired yourself personally? Like just get it together, man.
Yeah, I guess he just is a dick. I know he isn't that way because I was watching what was it called? I'm watching Nightcap. That's what it's called with Unc and Ocho.
Mhm.
I was watching that the other day, and they were talking about just a small segment. They weren't talking about this per se, but they were talking about power and how power corrupts people. And Ocho said, "Yeah, power and money." And Unc kind of replies, "No, no, no, no. Money doesn't change people. Money makes you more of who you already are." He says, so if you're a jerk, you get money, you're an asshole. And that's basically what David Tepper seems to be. He's worth $20.6 billion,
Damn.
and he has the time to throw drinks at fans. Like, get the fuck out of here, bro. By the way, that $300,000 fine that he got, I understand that it's not about the money, right? I mean, it's more in principle. But I did some quick calculations, right? So you take the 300,000 and compare it to his net worth of $20.6 billion, which I get that he doesn't have that like in an account.
Yeah.
That's what he's worth. But if you take that and you compare it and you take that same percentage and put it against like the average household income in California, I think it was roughly $80,000. That fine is about $1.16.
So not even a blip on the radar, never thought about.
No, no. What is that's he literally found that in his car.
Well,
You know what I
and
mean? Like
the
in the floorboard.
the worst part too is when he did the press conference back in November when he fired Reich and was like talking about it. Somebody asked him and he said something about, "I do have patience. Like my reputation away from this game is of extreme patience." You literally just
And
threw
what?
a drink at a fan. What kind of patience or even restraint do you have at all? I can't imagine. Now I
None.
understand in order to get to 26 billion, you got to be more cutthroat as far as the business decisions. I
Of
get that.
course.
But this is not a typical business. This is a team and an organization that There are a lot of different parts and pieces that go into the decisions you make, and then ultimately letting them do their job. Man, I don't know what they're going to do. Bryce Young looks lost. They have no offensive line to protect him. He looks too small and just is obviously very irritated and pissed. You can see, I mean, he threw a tablet on the sideline the other day too. So obviously it's not
He's a
going well.
winner, man.
Yeah,
He's
that's the
always been
problem.
winning. You
You
know
go
what I
from
mean?
high
So he
school to
doesn't like this, which
college.
is good.
Yeah,
You want to see a quarterback being pissed at losing. So just sucks that he's not in the best situation to try to overcome it. You know.
yep, absolutely.
I think he's gonna do all right. I think he just needs to get.
Out of Carolina.
I would say a better coach, but I don't think Frank Reich was a bad coach. I don't think he was the problem at
Well,
all.
that and they just hired him. They didn't even give him one full season. How can you have any patience if you hire a guy and you don't even give him a full season of the 3 or 4 year deal you gave him to try to implement his system, get this new young quarterback in the quarterback room and like situated? Just makes no sense.
Maybe he doesn't know what patience is.
That is a very
Maybe
good
that's it.
point. Maybe he thought it was a different word.
Maybe he keeps saying he's so. Yeah. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it.
I pay people.
Right? Yeah. Pay. Oh no, no, not that. Okay, got you. Yeah, no, I don't know. I don't, I don't like people like that. I don't. Do you know what this kind of reminds me of? In like a little bit of a worse way, obviously, is after I don't know when it was, like a couple years ago. I think it was after the Chiefs like clinched the division or clinched a 1 seed or something like that. But Patrick Mahomes' wife and brother were up in the
Oh
freaking
no.
booth, and they shot champagne all over the poor people down below him, like they were celebrating. And people looking like, "What the fuck, dude? Thanks. Now I'm covered in fucking your champagne." You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
they're so like tone deaf and out of touch with like reality because they're just so rich. And I can't stand Patrick Mahomes' wife. I don't know
Well,
what
his
the hell he was
brother
doing.
especially is the worst one. Like
Oh
he
yeah,
is
him too.
not only is
And
he annoying, he's an ass. So
yeah, they're just so people like that, people that have made it to some level where they're just above and beyond everybody else is just ridiculous. So I don't respect anybody like that. Money doesn't make you better than anybody at
nope,
all.
I
So
completely
it's
agree.
crazy to see.
Which, speaking of champagne and
Um,
celebrating, obviously there's some teams now after week 17 that have kind of locked in their spots or at least a playoff berth. So we'll go over that a little bit here first, starting with the AFC. Like
Perfect.
we talked about,
Okay.
Ravens clinched the AFC North and the number 1 seed, which if you think
Hmm.
about it, they basically have 2 weeks of a bye because they ain't going to play anybody next week that's important, I would assume, because there's
They
nothing to
shouldn't,
play
at
for.
least. I mean, I know it's a rival. That's the hard part, though. Is that rivalry game? You don't want to lose the Pittsburgh Ravens rivalry game, but to your point, man, who cares? One game. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, like
exactly.
let's prepare for the playoffs. You might get them out there, get the starters out there for a couple series, and then
Yeah,
call it.
but
You
even
know,
then,
kind of keep the
I don't
rhythm.
think Lamar goes out there at all. I don't even take that
No,
chance.
not that starter. That's
Yeah,
not what I meant.
I would not put him out there, even take that chance. It's the same thing in San Francisco. But yeah, like we said, the Chiefs got the AFC title, so they're pretty much locked in at the 3. We know the Browns, having won on Thursday against the Jets, have clinched themselves a wild card spot, which I think, depending on Miami and Buffalo, they could drop, but I think they're going to be solid at the 5 right now, but they could
Yeah, I
drop
think
to the
so.
6 possibly. And then, like we mentioned too, the Dolphins are in. It's just a matter of if they're a wild card team or they're going to win the division once they face Buffalo this weekend.
The biggest one I know we'll get there to me. The biggest one to me is who in the AFC South is going to be doing something. Again, we're going to get there. We're not talking about potential yet, but we're talking about locks. But that one's the one that's super interesting. Excited to see kind of how that one goes.
Who would have thought when we would have said that back in September?
Not me. I'm glad to kind of see though that they. I like this week 18. Let's not schedule anybody
Yep.
until week 7. I like that. That's
Yep.
like probably one of the first things of the NFL schedule that I've liked in a long time. I mean, the NFL makes a great schedule, don't get me wrong. The fact that how they switched it up and how they create parity and you could play all these certain people and make it more even. But the idea of knowing who and where, but not when and who's on TV is perfect
Yeah.
because then you're not hoping for the good game at night or hoping for that you get it. And
Well, that and it
I don't
also,
know how good this Bills Dolphins game is going to be, but that's a Sunday night one we got for
yeah,
for all the marbles.
but it also gives you them the opportunity too. Like the Cowboys will play at the same time as the Eagles, so one can't watch the other at the early game
Smart.
and then be like, oh, okay, well they lost, we don't have to play. Like, no, everybody plays at the same time. Baseball does the same thing that last weekend. Everybody plays at 1 o'clock on Sunday, regardless of where you are, because they just want everybody to play and not be watching the game. And oh, they lost earlier, we don't have to play anybody now. Like, makes
Hmm.
everybody play and be involved, and again, makes it a little more interesting. But yeah, Dolphins Bills on the night game is, I guess that's the best one of the what we got left, I guess.
Yeah, well, besides the Saturday games. See, the Saturday games to me are probably the bigger ones. Well, especially the Texans Colts one.
Hmm.
That one to me is probably going to be one of the bigger ones because whoever wins that basically takes the playoff spot. But they could also, depending on what happens with the Jags, take the division, right?
Yep, absolutely. There's a lot of things going on. The 3 of the 4 teams in the AFC South can win the division on this final weekend, which
That's
that's
crazy.
insane.
That's crazy. Again, we'll wait till we get to. I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, let's get to the NFC. The NFC. Obviously, the Niners were watching and rooting for the Cardinals
Mhm.
this past weekend, so that way they could take that number one seed. Of course, that happened. You're welcome. You're welcome. I called them. I said, you know what, just hook them up, dude. Just go ahead and beat them. You know, it's fine. So, obviously, Niners clinched the number one. They'll take the first round bye in the NFC West. Lions obviously took the NFC North already. They secured the 3 spot for sure. The only way that they're able to do it is if both the Eagles and the Cowboys lose. Cowboys are facing the Commanders, and the Eagles are facing the Giants. I really don't expect either to lose, but
No.
I also didn't expect the Cardinals to beat the Eagles either. So I guess anything happened.
But not only
Cowboys
that, the
clinch, and
Lions would have
oh,
to
go ahead.
win, and if they don't play anybody, then maybe they're kind of throwing that game out and just taking basically a bye week off and getting ready for the hosting of the playoff game the next round. So
Yeah, might as well do that if I was them. Um, The Cowboys obviously clinched, and they're in the 2 spot. They'll keep it as long as they win. Eagles clinch, but who the heck knows how they're going to do. And the Rams clinch a wild card spot as well with their win and
who
a
would have
Seattle
thought?
loss, I think it was.
Who would have thought when the Rams were 3-6, we'd be sitting here at Week 18 saying they've won 6 of their last 7 and are for sure a wild card spot? Like that's just, if anything, I think this is probably McVay's best coaching job in the years. And I'm
Agreed.
talking about even the year they won the Super Bowl because they were legit that year and stacked. This team, I mean, their biggest issue is kicker. They already cut what's the guy's name they cut? I can't remember his name right now. But they brought Maher back in, so they're desperate.
Again?
Yeah, they signed him back again today. So they're desperate, and
Jeez.
I feel like at the beginning of the season they didn't think they were going to be that good, so why spend the money on a kicker? But now it's kind of come back to haunt them in the end.
Should have got Brandon Aubrey out of the USFL. That
Ugh.
motherfucker is a beast,
Hey,
dude. That guy doesn't miss. He literally doesn't miss.
thanks to him, I got 3rd place in fantasy. I get my $20 back, and I'm all good.
Right? Yeah. I actually want to talk to you about that. I settled everything already, so I think we're square, right?
Yep, I think so.
All right. But yeah, the Rams, dude, that was kind of crazy. The other side note for the Rams that I thought was pretty cool, and I agree with you. There's 2 things I saw. One, Kyron Williams is second in the league in rushing, has missed 4 games,
Damn,
only behind Christian McCaffrey, who hasn't missed one. Oh, maybe he missed. Did
I
Christian
think he
miss
might
one?
have missed
No.
one.
Yeah. So that's not bad. Can you imagine if he got to play the whole season? That'd be pretty crazy. Um, the second thing was, I think there was a stat when I was watching the Rams game this past weekend that said, I think 30 of the 53 players on the 53-man roster are first or second year players in the league for
Yeah,
the Rams.
and I think I heard
That's
today.
over half.
Yeah, because I listen to Mason Ireland a lot, and Mason is a season ticket holder, so he talks about the Rams all the time. I think somebody did like a ranking of all the draft picks this year in the draft, now having seen them all play. And I think the Rams had like 3 of the top 20 or 25 guys, Puka Nakua, and I can't remember the other 2 guys. There's a linebacker.
Kyron.
And Kyron. Yeah, they've done a great job considering they don't have first round picks. They do a great job of drafting and building. And like I said, I think you mentioned 30 of 53 are first or second year guys. That just shows you how good of a coach McVay is to get these young guys
Exactly.
to buy in and actually like compete. And here they are in the wild card. I would have, like I said, would have never thought when they were 3-6 they'd be in this position.
Besides the CJ Stroud, I do think that having a veteran Matt Stafford at the helm is very helpful. Having a veteran Cooper Kupp at wide receiver is helpful as well. But that's pretty much it. I mean, they have obviously Aaron Donald and stuff like that, but I think it's pretty good, man. I give him props. Give him props. I thought that was pretty interesting. Those two little tidbits. But now onto the scenarios. These are what we were kind of talking about.
Ooh,
There
so
are
many.
so many. If this happens, then that happens, and if you go here, then I go there. Let's just break one down, maybe division by division, and set up some wild cards. You want to start us off?
Yeah, the first one, as we mentioned, Bills are going to the Dolphins. Winner of this game will win the AFC East title. And the loser, I think if the Bills lose, they could possibly still not make the playoffs, depending on what other teams
Correct.
do. So if you're
The
Buffalo, you have
Jags,
to win for your life.
the Bills, will not be in the playoffs if they lose, and the Steelers win, and the Jags win.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot of F's and N's and what's going on.
Yeah. So as long as the Jags should win. They do play the Titans,
Yes,
which
yes,
is
go
the
Jags,
worst
go
team in their
Jags.
division. Yeah.
I want that draft pick.
And the Steelers could win because, like we talked about, the Ravens probably should sit a lot of their players to avoid injury. So those two things are possible. The thing that I really don't see is I don't know, dude. I kind of have a feeling that Dolphins lose that game. So I don't think it'll matter what happens with the Steelers or the Jags. I do kind of think that the Bills will take it, unfortunately. But as we're talking about with the AFC South, Jags win the division with a win this weekend. The Colts win if they beat the Texans, who they play on Saturday, and the Jaguars lose or tie. And the Texans win if the opposite happens. If they win
Jeez.
the Colts game on Saturday and the Jags lose or tie. Whew.
Man, I would
But
have
there
thought
are,
we'd
yeah,
be sitting here saying the Texans have a chance at the division in week 18. If you would have told me that 3 months ago, I would have said you're crazy.
100%. And that's why I think without a doubt the offensive player of the year or the offensive rookie of the year should be CJ Stroud without question.
Oh yeah, there's no way he can't at this point.
I think a lot of people are saying, but Puka Nacua is sitting. I get that, and that's very impressive. I think that's very awesome. I also think that when you have Matt frickin' Stafford, who has the record, who's the most yards receiving in a season is Megatron. Who
Hmm.
was his quarterback?
Matthew
Oh
Stafford.
yeah, Matthew Stafford. So it's not like
Not only
Matthew
that, Cooper
Stafford.
Cup too. Remember Cooper Cup had the triple crown a couple years ago.
Yeah,
Who was his quarterback? Matthew Stafford. So
Matthew Stafford.
it's hard to argue that.
Yeah, exactly. And what's the hardest position to play in the entire NFL? Oh yeah, the quarterback position. So for him to come in here and lead a 3-13-1 team, I think they were last year,
Hmm.
to a 9-7 start and a possible division title, depending on how this weekend plays out, and at minimum a possible playoff berth. That's pretty freaking good for a first-year quarterback who everyone said was the stupidest quarterback in the draft,
With a first year
according to that
coach
stupid
who's a
test.
defensive minded coach on top of that. Like he was a
Hmm
former linebacker. It's not like he played quarterback or was on the offensive side of the
He
ball.
was a
So
beast too, though. He was a
oh yeah,
beast.
he was great.
But yeah, that's impressive. So props to him for sure, for sure. How's the okay? So now that we've kind of talked about the divisions, how's the wild card spots play out here?
Well, like you said, in the AFC, if the Bills tie, or the Steelers lose or tie, or the Jaguars lose or tie, I mean, there's just so many. Like it's just so many. It's crazy. The Bills have so many different things that need to go their way, but the Steelers are one. If they get the win at the Ravens, which, like we talked about, hopefully the Ravens are not playing anybody, they could sneak in as a wild card as long as the Bills lose. But if they win and the Jaguars lose or tie, they could sneak in. If they win and the Texans and Colts tie, like it's just there's so many
Oh my
different
gosh!
things that can happen here between the Colts and Texans game and Jaguars that affects the Steelers getting in. I mean, even if the Jags lose and the Broncos win and the Texans Colts don't end in a tie and the Steelers win, they can sneak in. I mean, it's crazy. If you're Steelers, just go out and win and let the dominoes fall as they may because you can't control anything else outside that game.
No, but Mike Tomlin did lock up another winning season.
There it
That's for
is,
sure.
18 in a row. I don't know how you do that with
Damn,
that
dude,
team.
that feels
Could you imagine if he
insane.
had like a decent quarterback? My lord.
I don't know. That's it. Yeah, this team ain't bad. This team ain't bad at all. Unc and on that same show that I was talking about, that's where Ocho thinks that would be a good maybe place depending for Russell Wilson because that's
I can
kind of
see that.
ending. So Russell Wilson kind of going now. The only thing is it's cold, obviously, and he's outside. He's a little older, but
Oh, and that
great head coach, great
AFC North
organization.
defenses would
Yeah,
beat him up too. Yikes.
yeah, it's a tough division, but a team that is basically there and is always there. Great defense. T.J. Watt should win Defensive Player of the Year again, leading the league in sacks going into the last week of the season, or I think tied for the league. Um, it'd be a kind of an interesting landing spot, but yeah, great team, and they just keep chugging like always. It's weird to see.
Absolutely insane.
Over to the NFC, we got the NFC East. This one is fairly cut and dry, to be honest with you. The only way the Cowboys don't win this division is if they don't win on Sunday. So Eagles have to get lucky. They need the Commanders to step up, and they need to beat the Giants themselves. So it's not looking good for Philly, to be honest with you. They were in control the entire season up until the last like 2 weeks, and it could all come crashing down in that short period of time.
And all they had to do was win last week against Arizona, and they would have been fine. But they totally blew it. So here they are.
They were a minus 750 on the betting line. So how they blew it, I really don't know. But hey, good cards. How about that NFC South, bro?
Oh, another the South in both the conferences is just absolute. I mean, this one is worse because everybody's basically 8-8 and just trying to get at 500, I think. But the Buccaneers
Hmm.
can win it with Baker Mayfield at the quarterback as long as they go into Carolina and take care of business, and then the Saints lose or tie their game. Now, again, this is the same thing. The Saints can win the division if they win, and the Falcons and Buccaneers are at the Falcons. I'm sorry, and if the Buccaneers lose, or if the Falcons and Buccaneers lose to I mean, it's just so many different things. The fact that the Buccaneers, Saints, and Falcons all have an opportunity to win the division in Week 18. Me and you, when we did our preseason picks, we thought New Orleans was going to take this division because it was just so messed up. But here the Buccaneers
Yeah,
are, and even the
it is messed
Falcons
up.
have a chance at winning this division.
I don't really know who I'm rooting for. I guess I'm rooting for the Saints to be right, but to be honest with you, I don't really care. I'm not a fan of either teams. I used to be a Bucks fan when Tom was there, obviously, but more of a Tom fan than a Bucks fan. Not a Baker hater per se, but yeah, I
Well, and think about this:
toss it.
if everything stays the way it is as far as these teams at the end of the week, and we go into the playoffs, even though Tampa Bay is going to have a home game, they're going to have Philly come into town if everything stays as it is, and that's even if Philly is struggling, that's still not going to be an easy opponent for Baker Mayfield and them to get past.
No, no. They. I think they'd figure it out. That's the one saving grace for the Eagles is they would go to that team, obviously, as the whoever wins the South as the first opponent. So that's the one thing that might be able to get them through to the second round. But they're gonna have a tough ride if they're gonna, make any sort of deep run in the playoffs.
Yeah,
This one should be interesting. This one should definitely be interesting. The NFC South. The wild card gets pretty crazy too with the huge Packers win over the Vikings. They kind of set themselves up to where as long as they win against the Bears, they should be in.
yeah, and not
Um,
only that though, if they win, and the Rams have already clinched the spot in the playoffs, so depending on how many guys they play against San Francisco, which obviously Frisco's not going to play very many people, I can imagine. But if the
no.
Packers and Rams both win, not only will they both be in, but because I'm sorry, if the Rams lose and the Packers win, not only will they both be in the playoffs, but since the Packers beat them back in Week 9, they would then jump up to the 6th, and the Rams could drop down to the 7th seed. So
Oh, with the high. Oh, wow.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Dang.
still some movement that can go on there. But you got to think if the Rams are playing the Niners, even if it's in Santa Clara, if the Niners aren't playing anybody, hopefully the Rams can take care of business and lock up that 6th seed, and then the Packers can win and get 7.
The Rams have really only lost one game in recent memory. It was an overtime punt return to the best team in the league.
Yeah,
So they're looking really good and looking hot right now. That's for sure.
that might be the team nobody wants to
Seahawks are
see.
no, no, and he's with a, I mean, with championship caliber quarterback, championship caliber coach, and roster, not roster, coaching staff,
Hmm.
um, and a hot roster with some good talent. It's definitely not somebody you want to see.
Yeah, for sure.
Seahawks get in if they can beat the Cardinals, but we know that's no easy task as Philly. But they need the Packers to either lose or tie the Bears.
That's possible.
Has there been any ties this season?
I don't think so, but the
I
Bears
don't
have
think
been
so either.
playing better lately. I mean, Fields looked like he
Yes, they
actually knows what
have.
he's kind of doing, so that's not an easy win, regardless. Especially if you, I mean, I don't know, man. Packers and Bears. That's a long time rivalry. So these rivalry games are always much harder than non-division opponents, anyway.
And I know that and Aaron Rodgers, I know he don't play there anymore, but he is probably, in his deep little heart, he's probably rooting for the Packers to win because he knows that he owns the Bears,
Oh yeah,
and he wants to make sure that maybe Jordan Love can continue. And not that he's rooting for Jordan specifically, but the idea of the Packers owning the Bears.
yeah,
But Justin Fields has been doing a little bit better. Did you see how this is the last home game because this game is at Lambeau. You see how after they confirmed that the uh, Panthers lost again, and they for sure have the number one
pick.
pick. They were all cheering like "Keep Field," like we want Fields.
Yeah,
They want to try to see where this goes. They don't want you to go grab Caleb Williams or anything. They think that you should get him weapons and help. And I kind of agree.
yeah,
The only hard part is like it's one of those like it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? Because if you
yeah,
move on and Justin Fields ends up doing well, then great. But if you don't move on, um, I'm sorry, if you move on from Caleb and Justin Fields ends up great, then great. But if you pick Caleb and and it doesn't work out, or if Caleb goes somewhere else and he does work and Justin Fields ends up not panning out, then you're like, damn, look at what we missed out on, a generational talent. And I'm not even saying it's Caleb specifically. It could be any of the number of quarterbacks that are here. Bo Nix,
Drake May.
Michael Penix, Drake May, Caleb Williams. There's a handful of them. Even I wouldn't even include the freaking Heisman Trophy winner out of LSU. I don't know if he's declaring, but if he is, Jaden McDaniels, he should be up there as well. So there's plenty of good quarterback talent this year, and that's the only caveat is like, damn, it's like you're dead. You just risk it for the biscuit. It's one of those things. So it'd be interesting to see.
And if you think about it too, because if you look at the draft order right now, the way it's set up, Washington would be second in the draft order behind them. So if you are the Bears, obviously Washington needs a quarterback as well. So if you end up with the 1 and they end up with the 2, you could trade back to number 2, let them take Caleb, and then you still have an opportunity if you want to take Drake May or Bo Nix or even Marvin Harrison Jr. to get a weapon to go for, which they have DJ Moore as well. So to have DJ Moore and Marvin Harrison Jr. on the wideout positions if you're Justin Fields coming back, and again with their coach Eberflus coming back, it's a continuation of actually some continuity, and maybe some real things can happen there in Chicago.
True, and after Washington is New England, and
they definitely
they need a quarterback too. So yeah, it's one of those you got to just make sure you do your homework, and if you trust Justin, then great, and if not, then make sure that you're picking the right one.
Man, that's gonna be tough.
Yeah. Other ones, Vikings are in with a win and a Packers loss and a Seahawks loss and a Saints loss. So that's probably not happening.
Woo.
Yeah. Or they're also in if the Packers lose and the Seahawks lose or the Bucks lose.
That's a lot of things you need to go your way. That's just too much to hope for.
Although I did think it was kind of cool, although they got schmacked. Jordan Love literally carved them up on New Year's Eve. I thought it was kind of cool that you see, oh my gosh, Kirk Cousins out there with his son doing the skull chant.
Yep. That guy is
shirtless
all about Minnesota, man. I mean, he went to the Twins playoff game when they were there, and he didn't even like go through the PR thing to get tickets. He bought tickets himself with his wife and his kids. They sat down at the lower bowl. He tried to wear a hat and hide because he just wanted to be a part of it until people started figuring it out. So, yeah, I have a feeling that they'll bring him back. I mean, they're not bad enough with a top pick to try to get another quarterback to take over for him anyway, so you might as well bring him back. And obviously Justin Jefferson really likes playing with him and would be happy to have him back, I'm sure.
For some reason, and I kind of disagree because I do think Kirk Cousins would be a good person to have back. I don't know why people don't give him his damn flowers. He's pretty freaking good at playing football. Unc thinks that is actually a better place for Russell Wilson. 9 dome games, 8 at home or 9 at home, and then 1 in Detroit. And they have a good defense, and Addison and Jefferson, Hawkinson. He likes tight ends. So I was like, okay. And they have Madison. There's a lot of sons.
Yeah.
Jefferson and Addison and Madison and Hawkinson. Jeez, and Wilson. That'd be perfect. So that's one that Uncle Shannon says that would be a good spot for him.
Yeah,
so
that one
I thought that was kind of an interesting take too.
That would make a little more sense than Pittsburgh, just because you said like the indoor, you'd have 8 or 9 games, depending, if not 10, if you have 9 home games, and you got to go to Detroit for one. That's not a bad idea as well, and then keeps them in the NFC. It takes them back to the NFC, which, I mean, you're in the different division, so it really doesn't matter. But yeah, their offense is man, I don't know though. Do you bring Kirk back and then also trade for Wilson, then like hope for one to pan out? I don't know how you would go about that.
I don't know. I like Kirk though, so I think Kirk I think he fits there. I think, like you said, it seems the players like him. I think he tries really hard. I don't think he's a bad quarterback. He's good. So he just got hurt. Otherwise, I think they'd be fighting for the division. To be honest with you,
maybe if you're
at least easily in playoff card.
Yeah, maybe if you're Minnesota, then if you don't make the playoffs, like your draft pick would be probably 12 to 13. You could still take a quarterback, like Knicks or somebody kind of later, and then have them be the clipboard guy for a couple games at least, and see how Kirk Cousins comes back from the injury. And if he's not ready, then maybe have the young kid take over, but have a veteran there who's obviously played a lot and has done a lot of good things on the field, kind of show them the way that the offense is run, and it would be an easier transition for one of those young guys, or an opportunity to actually sit down and learn for a year or two and see. I mean, because Cousins is 34, 35. He's not like a young kid anymore. So getting to the point that even
try taking a page out of your rival's book, huh?
Exactly.
Draft a quarterback, teach him some crap, then get him in there.
Exactly.
That's like the only. I don't know how they freaking do it. To be honest with you, it's so annoying. 35. He's 35. Okay, August 19th. Oh, he's the same age as us. Wow.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, it's I've and the athlete age thing is always weird to me now because I remember obviously this is 5 years ago. The Ducks had a backup goalie. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it was one of those guys like, oh yeah, he's old. He's been in the league like a long time. And then one of my staff members looked at it, he's 30. I was like, oh, he's my age. He's not that old. Never mind. Like it just the
Yeah,
sports
he's
age
young.
is
Did I say old?
yeah,
I
I
meant
meant
young.
young.
I meant he's young.
So I think
Ugh.
again, Cousins being 35 coming off the torn ACL, you don't know what you're going to get. But again, if you can draft a quarterback at 12 or 13 and kind of groom him for a year, if not half a season, depending on how Cousins does, it might be something to think about.
I think that'd be interesting. I'm a fan of Kirk. More than just, I mean, I think the show helped. Obviously, the
Yeah,
quarterback show. It's just kind of cool to see like his personality and how much he really dedicates and how much he really cares about the game of football. He's not in it for the money. He's not. He really wants to win. He's in it for his teammates. He's in it for the city. Like you said, he loves the city of Minnesota. He's trying to be involved in it. I don't know. I say give him a chance. I don't think you should move on from him. It's not. It's not like they benched him because he's doing poorly. He tore his ACL.
yeah, I can't do
It
anything
is
about
what it is. Yeah.
that.
And he's not too old yet. I think if he goes down again, I don't know what his contract looks like. Is he a free agent right now?
Yeah, he's a free agent at the end of the season. That was like the big thing with his injury was what do they do? Do they
Mm,
bring him back? So that's what I'm thinking. If you don't make the playoffs, and even if you do, if you still end up with like a 15 to 18 pick, take a quarterback and see how Cousins comes back. And if he's not ready from the get go, then maybe the young kid takes over and does his thing, or you give Kirk Cousins the run from the start. I mean, he got hurt pretty early in the season, so it's not unfathomable that he could be ready by camp and for the start of next year.
yeah, I mean, I'd say you at least sign him to a 2, 3 year deal.
Yeah, I mean, give him a 2 or 3 year deal, and maybe make it guaranteed heavy in the front ends, because that way, if you do draft a young kid that can take over by the time the contract gets to the last year or two, you can. I mean, he might have retire at that point. You don't know how, depending how he comes back
Yeah,
from the injury as well.
yeah. I hope he comes out well though. I hope he
Oh
comes
yeah,
back
for
well.
sure.
We'll
Never
see.
want anybody to not come back or 100% or not be able to play and do their thing that they love to do.
Yeah, it's fun to watch him play too. Fun to watch him play. Plus, I liked picking Jefferson, and besides him missing 7 freaking games, my number one overall pick missing 7 freaking games this year. Um, you know, he needs somebody to throw it to him. So no rookies. He wants somebody with a freaking dude. Kirk's got a cannon, so
Yeah,
he can hit J Jeff on those deep routes.
be interesting to see what they do and how this all weekend goes. Again, there's a lot of different implications and ways this can all break down this weekend, but definitely looking forward to it. And like you said, Sunday's going to be a lot of football to watch. Let's see what happens.
Hmm. We're gonna talk about. That's probably gonna wrap it up for us today. I'm dead, bruh. But we're gonna talk about more on Thursday. I want to talk about a couple of things. We might talk about some of our picks for the awards as they start to unfold. We're gonna talk about some of our predictions for the big games this week. So make sure you check us out. Where can they find us, man?
Yeah, remember, you can always find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube by searching Our View from the Bench.
Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at OurViewFTB. How's the rest of your first week of 2024 looking?
Not too bad. I got 3 more games this week for the Ducks. Tomorrow, Friday, Sunday, and then they go on a long road trip. So just trying to get through this next couple games. I know we got theme nights and I think Legacy Night on Sunday as well, which is celebrating the second decade of the team. And I think it's a Timu bobblehead giveaway. So if you want to come to
Ooh.
the Ducks game on Sunday the 7th and get a bobblehead of Timu Solani hoisting the Stanley Cup above his head, actually, I got to see the bobblehead today when I was in. So it's pretty sweet.
That is sweet. You mean something similar to this legacy bobblehead that
Yep.
we have right here for
You
Paul
got
Correa?
Yeah,
Although
you
he's
got
not
Legacy
hoisting a
Night
Stanley
number
Cup, of
1.
course.
Legacy Night number 2
That's
is
right.
coming, and I think Legacy Night 3 will be in March before we wrap up the season on April 12th for the last game of the year. So, but yeah, just a pretty easy week. No concerts until the 13th. I still got another week or two before I got to work the Alter Ego show, which Paramore is going to be there. So I'm actually pretty stoked I'm working that one because I love
Oh,
Paramore.
sweet.
So, but yeah, just a easy week the rest of this one and getting ready for Sunday. How about you?
Quick note before we get to me. Those legacy nights are really cool, man. If you are interested, dude, it's something to check out if you have the time and you're a hockey fan in general, specifically a Ducks fan, obviously. Anaheim Ducks put on a great show. Just from beginning to end, whether it's the music or the presentation, having all the players on the ice, it was a great time for the first legacy night. I'm sure the second one's going to be fantastic as well.
Yeah, definitely looking
For me
forward to
though, I'm just trying to get better, dude. I
it.
have been feeling like crap, man. I felt good enough to do this today. It's the first time I've literally turned on my computer since the last time I turned it off from our last episode. I just have been in bed doing absolutely nothing. So it's nice to kind of get back up and get out of bed and do something else. But Still not feeling great. Got to recover. That's pretty much my only plan for the rest of this week.
Yeah, I
Besides
remember
get
when
ready for
I was
college
texting to
football
see how
playoffs.
you were feeling, and you said you were, still kind of getting through it, and even kind of having like shortness of breath and stuff. And I was like, well, watching that Michigan game could not have helped any of those issues that you had, because I'm sure that was
I
a
know, dude. It
heart
did
attack just
not,
waiting to
bro.
happen.
I was sweating. I couldn't tell if it was the chills or the hot flashes or just nervousness, bro. I was sweating and cold at the same time. It was, but great game. Again, good guys won both games, so happy about that, man. But yeah, other than that, man, I appreciate everybody for stopping by. Thank you as always for seeing things from our view from the bench. I'm Brendan.
And I'm Corey. Like we always say, enjoy the sports until we talk again.
Go blue. Peace.